Good morning everyone, welcome to our talk show. Selamat pagi kepada semua. I would like to introduce myself to you all. I'm Kelsey Chng from DMC Main Intake 2020, and while on the other hand I would like to introduce my fellow members to you all.
Hi guys, I'm Seng or Edward, whichever you prefer calling me, and I'm from May 2021 DIT.
Hi everyone, I'm Xiong. Feel free, you can call me Sex. I'm from DIT May 2021. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you all. So thank you guys for introducing yourself to all of us. Now let's talk about our main topic as for today, which is Singapura keluar dari kawasan Malaysia. So dalam bahasa Inggeris ialah Singapore came out of the idea of Malaysia. So guys, what are your first thought when you hear this topic?
Definitely when I think about Singapore, it's definitely the man who started all, President Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes, correct. That's Lee Kuan Yew.
Prime Minister, should I say.
Yeah. Prime Minister or President is the same. Prime Minister of Singapore. Yeah.
And for me, I'm just thinking about the Singapore cultures and their lifestyles and their environments. You know, the lion?
Yeah. So you mean Singapore life and culture in there? Kind of.
Yeah, kind of similar because they were the same, similar with Malaysia. That's all I know.
So for me, when my first thought about this topic, when I mentioned Singapore came out of the idea of Malaysia, I would say one word: independence. I'm sure you guys know what's independence, right?
Yeah.
So that's independence. So speaking of Malaysia independence, which actually held on 31st August 1957. Alright, so you see, I would say Singapore have actually the same idea as Malaysia, that is similar to it, but which is bringing the idea of independence. So you see, Malaysia Independence Day was actually held on 31st August 1957, and right after Malaysia Independence Day, Singapore came after a few years, which is actually held on 9 August 1965. So you see, both countries have Independence Day but different year and time. So on 9 August 1965 is actually the time when Singapore got separated from Malaysia to become independent and a sovereign state. Sovereign state as in like supreme or royal. You know supreme, the word supreme? Yeah, supreme. So that was the time when Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister of Singapore, he got overcome by breakdown and emotions. So meaning to say, I would say that Lee Kuan Yew is proud that finally his country become independent when Malaysia managed to get one. So why not Singapore become independent too? Okay, so now let's talk about Singapore in Malaysia. There was a time during July 9, 1963, which is Lee Kuan Yew, he came to London. So if you are wondering what was Lee Kuan Yew doing in London, he was actually signing some Malaysia agreement. So speaking of that, Malaysia agreement is actually a document that spells out the formation of Federation of Malaysia in comprising Singapore, North Borneo and Sarawak. So do you guys know what North Borneo is? Do you know where is it part of?
It sounds familiar. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's in Sabah, right?
Yeah, correct. It's actually in part of Sabah.
Yeah, in Sabah. Yeah.
Do you think Sabah and Sarawak is the same?
No.
No, it's not same.
Yeah, I agree it's not the same, but I don't know why I feel like they sound the same because of, Sabah and Sarawak, the S. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like allegedly, maybe they're from Indonesia previously.
Maybe, could be. I'll find out. I'll go there one day when I'm free. Maybe during my trips lah. So anyway, let's talk about, I would like to share with you all about during the time in Singapore in Malaysia. There was also a time, the terms for Singapore entry into Malaysia were actually agreed upon both Singapore and federal governments were actually being published in the white paper during November 1961. So during November 1961, that white paper is actually a document that documented an outcome of a talk between Prime Minister of Singapore, which is Lee Kuan Yew, and Prime Minister of Malaya, Tunku Abdul Rahman, on Singapore inclusion into Malaysia. So I'm sure you guys know what's inclusion, right? Inclusion means incorporation. So, and the terms also included the margins of Singapore autonomy the political representation in the federal government, and also Singapore status of citizens and revenue to in the federal government. So prior to the signing of Malaysia Agreement, there was actually a serious negotiation of a common issue, which is a common market between Singapore and Malaya. And there was also Singapore portions of revenue and taxes will go to the federal government. So with this issue settled, I would say Singapore began its journey as part of Malaysia. So speaking of that white paper just now I mentioned, that white paper actually did not however provide details on financial and economic matters, which include the taxation and implementation of a common market that will go to the federal government. So these details were actually finalized close to the Malaysia Agreement, that is on July 9, 1963. And also I would like to share, Singapore will also provide 40 million, not 40 million if I'm not mistaken, let me recall back. According to the terms of agreement, Singapore will contribute 40% of its revenue to the federal government, and also a common market that will probably set up for over a period for like 12 years, which will make Singapore to provide 150 million of development loan to the Sabah and Sarawak, which makes 100 million of loan to become interest free for 5 years. So that's for my topic that I would like to share with you guys, and thank you for listening.
I see. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Well, wow. There was a lot of process when Lee Kuan Yew wanted to declare Singapore as a new nation. But if we were to look back at time, at that year, if you were born, which country would you choose at the time?
I will say Malaysia.
I see. Why is that so?
Why? Because it's where I born to be and where I come from, and also its culture and its languages.
I see.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna ask you a question. What is the difference between Malaysia and Singapore at that time?
At that time, the difference between Singapore and Malaysia. Okay, I have two answers actually. So that time the difference between Singapore and Malaysia was actually about it's about Singapore entry into Malaysia. See whether it's about whether Singapore managed to become independent and separated away from Malaysia during that time. And my other answer is the difference between Singapore and Malaysia is their languages. So because in Malaysia here we have 3 spoken languages, which is English, Bahasa Melayu, and Mandarin, also known as Chinese. And Singapore is like, they speak English more often compared to Malaysia.
I see. So the language barrier there isn't really that of a difference, like not big of an issue there, right?
Yeah, but also not just Singapore will have only one languages, which is English. Actually, any country can also have multiple languages.
Yes.
Just to let you know. Yeah.
See.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Alright. So over to you, Edward.
All right, thank you so much, Kelsey. Thank you so much for your lovely pitch. Hi guys, I think I've introduced myself. My name is Edward, and continuing where Kelsey left off, this was definitely a challenging union for both countries, because back then, before the declaration of Malaysia was even made on 16 September 1963, if I'm not wrong, both Singapore and Malayan leaders were very much aware that the differences in political approach and economical conditions between the two countries, I quote, cannot be wiped out overnight. Well, mainly because Malaysia did not want a part of the economy to go kaput, like the Soviet Union, and definitely they didn't want to lose their political hold over Singapore. And this, however, although it was a very, very big problem, did not stop the challenges between the leader of both countries throughout the entire period of the union. It was a slow progress for sure, but it was a even slow process for the creation of a common market and the difficulty in getting pioneer status from Kuala Lumpur for Singapore industries. They frustrated the Singaporean leaders. While KL was discontented with Singapore's avoided response to the federal government's clamor for increasing the revenue contribution to combat the Indonesian threat across the channel. So let me ask you this. Has anyone ever heard about the Indonesian threat that Malaysia had previously had to worry about?
No, not really. I have not heard about it.
Yeah.
So, a little bit backstory. Back then, when both countries were declared independence, that be Malaya and Indonesia, Indonesia president did declare Malaysia as a rogue state, and the two countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, were both in the same situation as the United States and Russia, which was they were in like a Cold War, and it looked like it would go into a full-blown war if tensions rise again.
Damn, I see.
Oh wow.
Luckily, luckily we didn't have to worry about. So, why was KL really discontented with it? Because well, Malaysia had a lot of things on their hands. They had systemic racism, which is a huge problem in Malaysia at the time, which I will get to in a bit. They have a weak economy, and definitely the biggest problem to them was the Indonesian threat, like I did explain, because Indonesia was militarizing at the time, and Malaysia having so many problems to worry about. Singapore's independence became much of a minority problem than a priority. So definitely, if the Malayan leaders did wanted Singapore just to stay where they are because they could have political power over them. And speaking about this, on the political front, if we're talking about it, the tension between the Malay and Chinese, in particular, were rising, and in which made them vulnerable to communal preconceived ideas which were foregrounded by their leaders. So there were two political parties at the time. There were the People's Action Party, or PAP, and the United Malays National Organization. If you're unaware of it, it's called UMNO. So, yeah. So the two soon were accusing one another for miscommunication, and the accusations escalated into tensions until they erupted into racial violence in Singapore and in Malaysia. However, despite agreeing to a 2-year truce in September 1964, if I'm not mistaken, the tensions between UMNO and the People's Action Party, PAP, I guess it's called it, soon flared up again. And in the heart of the rift was President Lee Kuan Yew's multiracial slogan, Malaysian Malaysia, which was viewed as untrustworthy among the UMNO leaders, especially the ultras or conservatives, as we would call it, who viewed his vision of a non-communal Malaysia as a threat to their party and threatened the undisputed Malay dominance throughout the entire country. So that was my pitch. Any questions you would like to ask me?
Yeah, I actually have like maybe 2 questions. So what do you know about the Soviet when you mentioned just now in your explanation?
Oh, you mean when I mentioned like the economy was going to be like Soviet Union?
Yeah, that part.
Alright, so a little bit of backstory. Russia in the 1912, if I'm not mistaken, they had a Russian revolution. They overthrew the Tsar Alexander, and the leader at the time was Vladimir Lenin, which was shaping Russia into a communist state. And when Russia became a communist state, it was known as the Soviet Union. And definitely when the Soviet Union dissolved and they returned back to Russia, the economy was really, really bad because they had just lost value of their rubles. They had lost tremendous amounts of land, and those lands became new states, as we know as Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. All these places, they have their own economy, so which really made the Russian ruble worthless.
I see.
So definitely Malaysia wanted to be like Russia, because if they lose Singapore, definitely it's going to have a big impact on the economy.
Wow,
Wow.
good to know,
Wow.
Edward. And
Wow.
also, do you know what UMNO stands for?
No, yes, the United Malays National Organization.
Yeah, correct. That's one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually. But yeah, I'm glad that you know the answer for short forms like PAP, UMNO. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So that's
So-
only questions that I have.
All right. Yes, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. I just only one question. What do you think about the Indonesia?
Indonesia?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Indonesia was completely innocent at the time, because, well, before Indonesia really had their independence at the time, they had some tensions between Malaysia, just like France and England. They had long-standing tensions, but I guess it's just nature. It's just natural for them to feel aggressive towards Malaysia, especially when Malaysia got a easy way to their independence, aside from Indonesia, which had a really hard time to get their independence. So definitely, I think Indonesia felt that Malaysia's independence was unfair.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's good to know that.
All right.
No, that's
Any
all.
other questions for me?
No, that's all.
All right. So that was my part. That was my pitch. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And right now, I'll hand it to Xiong. Please take it.
Hi, I'm gonna introduce myself again. Okay, first of all, thank you, Edward and Kelsey. And my name is Xiong. You can call me, feel free. Again, you can call me CX. Okay, about my part, actually, is separations and the birth of Singapore. First of all, I need to talk about the separations. So the second half of the 1965, the stormy political climate in Malaysia showed no sign of easing. There's a mean at that time, at that period, it's very Malaysia seems very heavy racist, very heavy racist. And our first Prime Minister Tun Rahman, he was trying to avoid to repeat the 1964. I think everyone know about 1964. What
Yes, the
happened, right?
racial problem.
Yeah, a very heavy racist problem. That's bloody slaughter,
Yes.
So the week leading to the 9 August 1965 was a busy time for the leader of both countries, and it's very busy time with Malaysians and Singapore's. By that time, celebrations had become century by Lee, and Lee asked the Law Minister E.W. Parkers. Actually, E.W. Parker's full name, as we know, I'm going to introduce these characters, is Edward William Parkers. He was born in 1 December 1920, and he's the law, and his role is playing the law from Singapore. So he's the one who, the first generation's Ministry of Singapore Post-Independent Cabinet. He helped the Service Ministry solutions for over time the addition to law, including nation development. So he drafted the separation agreement at the end of July. Then, along with the others legal documents such as the very important documents, the Proclamation of Independence, and Lee Kuan Yew showed the final signed separation document by the Parkers. He asked the Todd and Raja Ranam, who were in Singapore, to meet following the morning. So arriving in KL, Kuala Lumpur, yes, Malaysia, separate on 7th August. Both Tom and Raja Ranam were particularly distraught when Lee broke the news to them. So the Tom and Raja Ranam they don't want to sign the separations documents. So Lee just wait. So their first contract, as we feel, the first Lee signed the separations. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew first signed the separation contract is failed. So Lee was disappointed and returned to the Singapore on 8 August, and he didn't give up again. He get the separation agreement signed by the rest of his cabinet members. So he find another two individuals assistant text of the meeting 9 August deadline. And these two characters is played important roles. One is called John Lee Cake, and John Lee Cake actually is born in 8 October 1912. He is born in Bangkok, is from Thailand. Actually, his role is a Singapore police forces. He's gonna take care of the Singapore, so make sure they are safe. And the second is the Sheng steward. He's one of the important roles, and is playing one of the important roles. So his job he was a long service public serving the public officials in Malaya and Singapore to achieve many firsts. So he is the one, and so he was also he got his role playing at that time. He was permanently secretary at the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs. Okay, so Lee Kuan Yew got these two assistants to help him get ready getting research and get all the documents to find Raza. And on that day, Raza had prepared everything to ready and to send to our first Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman address to the Federal Parliament. To the following days, he would move a bit. Raza was also waiting a fully signed separation agreements from Singapore to the 12 nations that Singapore has been expelled from Malaysia. So that Lee Kuan Yew shared the purpose of the 9 August Parliament sessions with the Chief Minister, the Menteri Besar, and the state rulers in the Federation after he received the agreement bearing the signature of the entire Singapore cabinet. So he didn't give up the second time, and he successfully signed the separations. About the Singapore's and Malaysians. So after that, okay, the birth of Singapore's, show up the birth of Singapore. The declaring Singapore in independence was announced on Radio Singapore at 10 a.m. on 9 August 1965. Yes, this is the day they get independent. So similarly in KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysians, because their time is similar, and our first Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman announced his separation into a federal parliament, and then the Tunku Abdul Rahman tabled a resolution to enact the Malaysian Constitution's Bill in 1965 to allow Singapore to leave Malaysians and become independent and sovereign nations. The bill was passed by 126 over 0 vote and given by the government, approved by the press conferences called by that. So was despite having a long belief emerged and asked people to remain the flame a flame. Filled in the emotions, Lee Kuan Yew's eyes full of tears, and he giving acclaiming their leaders the moment of suffering. So Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore, finally left Malaysia. Well, there are many unite behind the news. The parting of his life, despite the way announcement was shocking and initially was start with disappointment and regret. So that's Lee Kuan Yew. I think our nations, Malaysia and Singapore at that time, I think got very, very misunderstand. So happened this kind of thing. So sad. Singapore left Malaysia. Okay, that's all. My part.
Right, thank you, CS. Wow, could you believe a man with such determination who got rejected by multiple times for creating his own nation didn't give up and actually did what he had to do? Like, the man got his independence for his country. Like, damn, this is something that should be proud of, definitely.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, CS, for sharing your interesting topic to all of us. The birth of Singapore and some else that you shared just now. So yeah, it was quite interesting to know what you have shared to all of us just now. I was thinking, I want to ask you this question. Do you think that Singapore is actually still part of Malaysia?
I think right now is no. Actually, Singapore is um very well known, good technologies countries, and yeah, economic is quite
Yeah, I got your point.
higher than our nation's Malaysia. Yeah, so it's not part of the Malaysia's rate.
I see.
Yeah,
What about you,
whatever.
Edward? What do you think? Do you think it's still
Well,
part of?
I actually I find it really hard to believe because a man with such determination has made the country, both countries actually, Malaysia and Singapore, to prosper, to have their a lot of tech innovation, have created a lot of stable jobs for us, like better lives for us. Like this is something that should be proud of and should be celebrated for. But my question to you is that right now, if we're talking about now, would you choose preferably Malaysia or Singapore?
I would choose Malaysia still.
I see.
If
What about CX?
if right now I'm of course is choose Malaysia. In back to the few days in 1965, of course I would choose Singapore because back days Malaysia is very heavy racist at that moment. So
Yes.
of course,
Racist problem.
yeah, we of course I will choose Singapore. But right now, I'm of course I will choosing Malaysia.
I see. What about you, Kelsey? Why did you choose Malaysia?
Why do I choose Malaysia? Because that's where I belong. And yeah, my simple answer is because yeah, I born in Malaysia, so I choose to belong where I am.
I see.
Then I also got a question prepared for you guys.
What's
Which food do you like, Malaysia's or Singapore?
that? Actually, I
Wow.
would choose. I know. Can I choose two?
Yeah.
I actually like both, but I know I will still choose Malaysia if you ask me which one is the most. I will choose Malaysia
Yeah.
because you know you got
Only name one.
three different culture, three different food of culture.
Yeah. You? How about you, Edward?
Well, like I said, since I did grow up, like I think all of us grew up in Malaysia. Definitely, we all know that Singapore food is actually Malaysian food, and definitely I say I choose Malaysia not because of the food but variety. We have Indian, Chinese, Malay, every single race. We have Arabic in places like KL, and we go to maybe rural places like kampong kampongs and go and have some amazing Chinese, Indians, and Malay meals. It's just outstanding.
Wow.
Right.
Good
I know,
to
right?
hear that. Wow. Good
Outstanding.
to hear that. Yeah, outstanding move.
Actually, and also the other fact, just like you know, I actually still believe that Singapore is actually still part of Malaysia because of the association. The association was thought to benefit the economy by creating free market to improve Singapore internal security.
I see.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
like, before we end this, I just have a few questions for you guys. Like, what do you think about Lee Kuan Yew? Did you think he did the right thing to bring Singapore out of Malaysia? What do you two think?
Oh wait, I go first. Yes,
Alright, sure.
I believe Lee Kuan Yew did the right thing he could, and yeah, he did what he could. So at least to make his country become independent. Since Malaysia can be independent, so why not Singapore get one too?
I see. What about CX?
Yep, I agree with Kelsey. I agree. Lee Kuan Yew did the good things because that at that time it's very heavy because of the racist. Wow, there's very deadly racist there. So I'm just agree with Lee Kuan Yew what he did to protect.
I see.
Well,
Yeah, that's all.
is there
For me.
anything else before we wrap this up?
No, but
No.
definitely, I want to say that thanks to our leaders, right now we have technology that we can communicate each other. Like all of us are in different regions right now because of the coronavirus pandemic. Definitely, it's because of these people. There are great minds that promote innovation. Right now, we could finally have video calls. We can communicate
True,
to each
true.
other different parts of the world.
Yeah, I agree. So, I'm glad that all of us we share our own topic, based on Singapura keluar dari Gaza Malaysia. Singapore came out of the idea of Malaysia, and let's wrap this up, shall we?
Right.
Okay.
Alright. Thank you everyone.
Nice.
Bagus.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
You're the
you.
best.
Boa Bicara
Be kind.
Talk Show. Alright.
Thank you. Thank you.